if you can't think for yourself, very seldomly will you have a response to anything brought against you. And in our episode of Drop the Stones, we're talking about this confirmation bias and how it makes the majority of the people in this group that gets formed, this circle, reliant on certain individuals, leaders, to fill them in, tell them what to say, tell them what to think. They become completely dependent on being spoon-fed all their information. And you see it in the Christian church. You always have to listen to a pastor and everything like that, but it prevents them from thinking on their own. So they can't work through an argument. They have to wait for their leader's response to it to see how to accurately respond and reflect on it. They can't think on their own. A prime example is if, in the past I've dealt with Christians and we get in a debate on something and they have their points that they're trying to bring. And you call them out on it and say, no, well, this is a contradictory point, or that's patently false, because of this, this, and this. They kind of go offline because they have no response to it. This is what they were told to say. This was their mic drop. And they weren't allowed to think beyond that point to figure out what was really happening here. So when you contradict it or bring up an opposing fact against them, they have nothing to respond. And they have to go back to their teacher. I know one person, this woman, that had to go back to her husband all the time to ask him what he thought because she wasn't allowed to think on her own. She had to go to her husband and be taught and told what to think and respond. And it's frustrating when you're in a debate because you can never get anything figured out or solved because you're constantly waiting for this, interaction to happen between the other party. But the other one that's more glaring today is when you're dealing with red hats, and whenever you bring up something against them and say, hey, your guy's saying about being transparent, but how transparent are they really being? Or he said he's going to do this on the first day and this never happened. And they kind of wait. Or a better example would be if something happened, they don't have a quick response to it. There's no, this, because of this, and this had to happen. They have to wait. They have to wait for Fox News and, Truth Social and all these other things to point out things, to tell them what to say, because they don't know what to say on their own. They haven't figured it out. They haven't been able to think on their own. So they have to wait for these sources to give them the information. So it's always a delay, it seems, when red hats are talking about anything that's going on. They don't have quick responses to back up or support their candidates. They have to wait to be told what to say. And it just goes to prove that this whole idea of being in this confirmation bias and being comfortable and allowing other people to think for you just makes you a puppet of their own. It makes you controllable by them. You can't do anything on your own, and it steals your individuality. It steals your personality and anything you could think on your own. And I just think that'd be a personal hell to be in. I know I was when I couldn't, I'd had to rely on what to be told by a pastor or whatever. I didn't like it. I wanted the answers on my own. When I didn't get them answers, I'd get upset. And it just amazes me how many people will sit back and just be lazy and want shit spoon-fed to them all the time because that's the only way they know how to live. It's sad.